Wyatt Mercer opened his eyes to the gray morning light filtering through the blinds of his bedroom in Madison, Wisconsin. 37 years old today. He rolled over and reached for his phone on the nightstand, expecting maybe a text from his cousin Duke or his friend Alonzo. What he found instead made his jaw clench. Lyndon, sold your laptop. My sister needs a phone. Be grateful we feed you. Wyatt sat up slowly, reading the message twice. His laptop, the one he used for client work, the one that paid for this house, the groceries, the bills. He set the phone down and walked to his office. The laptop was gone from his desk. In its place sat a note in Lyndon's handwriting. Took it to the pawn shop. Reese needs it more than you do. His phone buzzed again. Lyndon. Also, you'll pay her tuition. $6,000 by Friday. No discussion. Wyatt stared at the screen. $6,000. For a sister who had never worked a day in her life, who treated him like hired help in his own home. He typed back with steady fingers. Wyatt. No chance. The response came within seconds. Lyndon. Then get out. You're cut off. Wyatt set the phone on the kitchen counter and walked to their bedroom. Lyndon wasn't there. Probably at her mother's house already, planning his exile with Maeve and Reese. He pulled his old Marine duffel bag from the closet and began packing. One change of clothes. His father's dog tags. The small notebook where he kept his client contacts. His real laptop charger, the one that went with the machine they thought they'd sold. 20 minutes later, he stood in the kitchen one last time. On the table, he placed a manila envelope. Inside was a photo he'd taken months ago of his actual laptop, safe in a storage unit across town. Attached was a handwritten note. This is war. I won't be silent. He shouldered his bag and walked out the front door. Behind him, the house stood quiet. Lyndon would be home soon, expecting to find him begging for forgiveness. Instead, she'd find an empty house and a promise. Lyndon pulled into the driveway at 11:30 a.m., her mother Maeve in the passenger seat and Reese in the back. They'd spent the morning at the mall, shopping with the money from the laptop sale. Reese clutched a new iPhone box, already setting up her social media accounts. I can't believe he actually left, Reese said, scrolling through Instagram. What a baby. Good riddance, Maeve snorted. That man never appreciated what he had. You deserve better, honey. Lyndon nodded, but something felt wrong. The house looked too quiet. Wyatt's truck was gone, but she'd expected that. What she hadn't expected was the envelope on the kitchen table. Her hands shook as she opened it. The photo fell out first. Wyatt's laptop, clearly sitting in some storage facility she didn't recognize. The timestamp showed yesterday's date. Her breath caught. What is it? Maeve asked, looking over her shoulder. Lyndon read the note aloud. This is war. I won't be silent. The room went dead quiet. Reese dropped her phone. What does that mean? Reese's voice cracked. Mom, what does that mean? It means your laptop is fake, Lyndon whispered. He knew. He knew we were going to take it. Maeve grabbed the photo. How much did you get for the fake one? $800. Lyndon's voice was hollow. $800. Reese shrieked. I told everyone I was getting a $2,000 laptop. I already posted about it. Shut up. Lyndon snapped. Let me think. But thinking was hard when her world was tilting. Wyatt had always been quiet, compliant. He paid the bills without complaining. He fixed things around the house. He never fought back when she or her family criticized him. This note, this photo, it was like getting a message from a stranger. She tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. Wyatt, this is ridiculous. Come home so we can talk about this like adults. She tried again an hour later. Fine, you want to be dramatic? But you can't just disappear. You have responsibilities here. By evening, she'd left 12 messages. Wyatt's voicemail box was full. The Northside Tavern sat in a quiet corner of Madison, the kind of place where working men came to decompress after long days. Wyatt found Alonzo at their usual table in the back, nursing a beer and reading something on his tablet. You look like hell, Alonzo said without looking up. Thanks for the warm welcome. Wyatt slid into the booth across from his best friend. Alonzo was built like the firefighter he used to be, broad shoulders, scarred hands, eyes that missed nothing. Let me guess. The Ice Queen finally pushed too far. Wyatt pulled out his phone and showed Alonzo the text thread. His friend read in silence, his jaw tightening with each message. I told you that woman was a drain, not a wife. Alonzo said finally. But walking out on your birthday? That's cold even for her. It gets better. Wyatt pulled out his own laptop, the real one, and opened a folder labeled insurance. Inside were dozens of files. Bank statements, screenshots of text messages, audio recordings, photos of documents. Alonzo whistled low. Jesus, Wyatt. How long have you been putting this together? 3 years. Wyatt clicked through the files methodically. Ever since I found out about the fake rental property she was running with Maeve. That's when I knew she wasn't just mean, she was criminal. Fake rental property. They've been telling people they rent out a duplex on the east side, collecting deposits and first month's rent, then claiming the deals fell through. Small amounts each time, different people. But it adds up. Alonzo leaned back in his chair. And you've been what? Building a case? Building a war chest. Wyatt's voice was calm, controlled. The same tone he'd used in the military when briefing his unit before a mission. They took my kindness for weakness. They'll never see me coming. The waitress brought Wyatt a beer without being asked. He'd been coming here with Alonzo for 5 years, and she knew his order. Normal life. Simple connections. Things that felt foreign after living with Lyndon. So what's the plan? Alonzo asked. First, I disappear for a while. Let them panic. Let them show their true colors while I'm not around to be the target. Where are you staying? Remember Adele Rossner? The paralegal who helped you with your contractor's license. The one who went through that nasty divorce with a lawyer. That's her. She's got a guest house behind her place. Offered it to me last month when I fixed her plumbing. Said she could always use the company of someone who knows how to treat people decently. Alonzo grinned. She's got good taste. And probably good advice for what you're planning. That's the idea. Wyatt closed the laptop. This isn't about anger, Alonzo. This is about justice. They've been using me for years, lying to their friends about who pays for what, making me look like a deadbeat while I bankroll their lifestyle. Time for the truth to come out. And if Lyndon wants to fight dirty. Wyatt's smile was cold. Then she'll learn that quiet doesn't mean weak. And nice doesn't mean stupid. Adele Rossner's guest house sat behind a craftsman bungalow on Madison's near west side, surrounded by oak trees and a garden that showed signs of careful attention. Wyatt carried his single bag up the stone path at 9 p.m., exactly when Adele had said to arrive. She met him at the door, 45 years old, silver-streaked brown hair, pulled back, wearing jeans and a sweater that had seen better days. Her smile was tired but genuine. You look like a man who's had a very long day, she said, taking his bag. Come on, let's get you settled. The guest house was small but clean. One room with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a daybed that looked comfortable enough. More importantly, it had a desk and reliable internet. Coffee's already made, Adele said, pouring 2 cups. And before you ask, yes, I know exactly what kind of day you've had. My ex-husband used to pull the same financial manipulation games. Lyndon told you. Lyndon doesn't know I exist. But Alonzo called me this afternoon, gave me the basics. Plus, I saw the news about your little surprise gift. Wyatt looked up sharply. News? Adele pulled out her phone and showed him a Facebook post. Lyndon's account, posted 2 hours ago. My husband abandoned his family on his birthday over a simple misunderstanding. Some people just can't handle adult responsibilities. Prayers needed for strength during this difficult time. The post already had 37 comments, mostly supportive messages from people who didn't know the whole story. Misunderstanding, Wyatt repeated. Yeah, well, wait until tomorrow. I've got some ideas about how to handle this, if you're interested in playing the long game. I'm listening. Adele sat across from him at the small table. First rule of legal warfare documentation is everything. Your evidence folder is good, but we need more. We need to prove pattern of behavior, financial abuse, fraud if possible. I've got 3 years of bank records. Good start. What about communications? Text messages, emails, voice messages. Some. Not enough. Then we get more. Your wife is going to be angry, scared, and desperate over the next few weeks. Angry people make mistakes. They say things they shouldn't, do things they can't take back. Wyatt pulled out his phone and showed her the 12 voicemails from Lyndon. Like this. Adele listened to the first few, her expression growing darker. Oh, this is perfect. Listen to how the tone changes. Message 1. She's trying to be reasonable. Message 12. She's threatening legal action. Classic escalation pattern. Is that good for me? Very good. It shows her true character when she doesn't get her way. Now, tell me about this cousin Duke that Alonzo mentioned. Duke Mercer. My dad's brother's kid. He's an accountant. Used to do forensic audits for insurance companies. Catches people cooking their books. Call him. Tonight. We're going to need his help breaking down every financial transaction between you and your wife's family for the past 5 years. Wyatt dialed Duke's number while Adele cleaned up the coffee cups. His cousin answered on the second ring. Wyatt? Jesus, man. I heard you finally grew a spine. About time. You heard from who? Alonzo called me an hour ago. Said you might need some professional help with a certain financial situation. I've been waiting for this call for 3 years. You knew. I knew your wife was bleeding you dry. I knew her family was treating you like an ATM. I've been keeping my mouth shut because you weren't ready to hear it. But if you're ready to fight back, I'm ready to help. Adele took the phone. Duke, this is Adele Rossner. I'm a paralegal helping Wyatt. Can you be here tomorrow morning with whatever records you'll need to do a complete financial audit? Already packed. I'll be there at 8. Duke arrived at 7:45 a.m. carrying 2 laptop bags and a box of file folders. He looked like an accountant, neat, precise, wearing glasses that had seen better days. But his handshake was firm, and his eyes were sharp. Before we start, he said, settling at Adele's kitchen table, I need to know how far you want to take this. Are we looking for ammunition for a divorce settlement, or are we building a criminal case? Both, Wyatt said without hesitation. Good answer. Duke opened his first laptop and pulled out a portable printer. Because what I found in my preliminary review is going to make your wife very unhappy. For the next 4 hours, they worked in concentrated silence. Duke had pulled 5 years of bank records, tax returns, and credit reports for Wyatt and Lyndon. Adele cross-referenced them with public records, property filings, and business registrations. Wyatt provided context and filled in gaps with his own documentation. By noon, they had built a timeline that made Wyatt's stomach turn. Start with the rental property, Duke said, pointing to a spreadsheet on his screen. Lyndon and Maeve registered a business called Premier Property Solutions 3 years ago. According to their tax filings, they've collected over $40,000 in rental deposits and fees. But they don't own any rental property, Wyatt said. Exactly. It's a pure scam. They advertise places on Craigslist, show them to potential renters, collect money, then claim the deals fell through due to credit issues or previous tenant problems. Since the amounts are always under $2,000, most people don't bother pursuing legal action. Adele highlighted another section of the timeline. Then there's Reese's college situation. According to the university records I pulled this morning, she withdrew from classes 4 months ago. But look at these Venmo requests. The screen showed a series of payments from Wyatt's account to Lyndon, all labeled Reese Tuition or Reese Books. Total, $8,400 over 6 months. She's been out of school since October, Wyatt said slowly. But they kept asking for money. It's worse, Duke continued. Remember when Lyndon said you owed her money from when you were unemployed 2 years ago? I found the truth. You were never unemployed. You were doing contract work, getting paid directly to your personal account. But during that time, Lyndon took out 2 personal loans totaling $15,000, using your name and forged signature. That's identity theft. That's a felony. Adele pulled up the loan documents on her laptop. Look at these signatures. I'm not a handwriting expert, but these don't look like the same person wrote them. Wyatt studied the documents. His name, but not his signature. Not even close. How did she get approved for loans in my name? She worked at the bank, Duke reminded him. Had access to your personal information, knew your social security number, knew your employment history. Classic inside job. And the credit card debt she's always complaining about. Duke pulled up another spreadsheet. The debt she claims you caused? It's all shopping, restaurants, and cash advances. Look at the dates. They correspond exactly with times when you were traveling for work. She was spending money while you were out of town earning it. Wyatt leaned back in his chair. 3 years of feeling guilty. 3 years of Lyndon's family treating him like he owed them something. 3 years of being called irresponsible, unreliable, selfish. They really played the long game, he said. The longest, Adele agreed. But they made one critical mistake. They kept records. Criminals always think they're smarter than they are, so they document everything thinking no one will ever find out. So what's our next move? Duke and Adele exchanged a look. We burnt all down, Adele said simply. The Madison branch of the IRS occupied a gray building downtown that looked exactly like what it was, a place where financial crimes came to die. Wyatt parked across the street and made his first call. IRS fraud hotline. This is Agent Patterson. I'd like to report unreported income from a fraudulent rental property business. The conversation took 20 minutes. Wyatt provided Premier Property Solutions business registration number, tax ID, and a summary of their activities. Agent Patterson sounded bored until Wyatt mentioned the total amount of unreported income. Did you say $40,000 over 3 years? That's conservative. I have bank records showing cash deposits that don't match their reported income. We need to see those records. I can have them to you by tomorrow morning. His second call went to the University of Wisconsin Financial Aid Office. Academic Fraud Department. This is Jennifer. I need to report falsified tuition requests and forged enrollment documents. This conversation was shorter. Jennifer took down Reese's student ID number and the dates of the fraudulent tuition requests. She promised an investigation within 2 weeks. The third call was the hardest. Wyatt dialed the Madison Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit. Detective Morrison, I need to report identity theft and loan fraud. Are you the victim? Yes. My wife forged my signature on loan documents and has been using my personal information to obtain credit without my knowledge. How much money are we talking about? $15,000 in fraudulent loans, plus additional credit card debt obtained through identity theft. Detective Morrison scheduled an appointment for the following morning. Wyatt would need to bring the forged documents, bank records, and a formal statement. WY 3 p.m. He made 8 phone calls. The IRS, the university, the police, the state attorney general's office, the Better Business Bureau, 2 different credit reporting agencies, and the bank where Lyndon worked. The last call was to the East Side Neighborhood Association. According to his research, they've been looking for information about rental scams targeting their residents. This is Margaret Shunn, association president. I have information about a rental scam operation that's been targeting your neighborhood. Oh my God, yes. We've had 6 families complain about losing deposits on fake rentals. Do you know who's running it? Wyatt gave her Premier Property Solutions business information and a summary of their methods. Margaret promised to forward the information to their legal committee and the local news stations. You have no idea how much this helps, she said. These people have been stealing from families trying to find decent housing. Walking back to his truck, Wyatt felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Control. For 3 years, he'd been reacting to Lyndon's demands, scrambling to meet her family's expectations, always one step behind their schemes. Now he was 10 steps ahead. His phone buzzed with a text from Alonzo. How's the war going? Wyatt typed back. First shots fired. Target acquired point 3 days later. Lyndon's world started falling apart in small, confusing pieces. That IT started with a phone call to the house at 7 a.m. on Thursday. Mrs. Mercer? This is Agent Patterson from the IRS. We need to schedule an appointment to discuss your business, Premier Property Solutions. Lyndon, still half asleep, fumbled with the phone. I'm sorry, what business? Ma'am, our records show you as a co-owner of a property management company. We've received reports of unreported income and need to examine your records. There must be some mistake. Are you Lyndon Mercer, Social Security number ending in 4729? Lyndon's stomach dropped. Yes, but I don't understand what this is about. We'll explain everything during the appointment. Can you come on Monday morning at 9 a.m.? And please bring all business records, bank statements, and tax documents for the past 3 years. The line went dead. Lyndon sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the phone. Premier Property Solutions. She and her mother had set that up as a way to make some extra money. Nothing serious. Just a few rental deposits here and there when people were looking for places they couldn't quite afford. It wasn't hurting anyone. Her phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed Reese's number. Lyndon, what the hell is going on? Reese's voice was panicked. Some woman from a university just called me about academic fraud. They're saying I forged tuition requests. Slow down. What woman? From the financial aid office. She says they're investigating false enrollment claims and fraudulent tuition payments. She mentioned your name, Lyndon. She said someone reported that I've been collecting tuition money while not actually attending classes. Lyndon's hands started shaking. Who would report that? I don't know, but they're freezing my student account, and they want to meet with me tomorrow. If they find out I dropped out in October, I could go to jail. You're not going to jail. It's just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Lyndon, I've been taking money for tuition while working at the call center. That's fraud. The call ended with re-sobbing. Lyndon tried calling her mother, but Maeve didn't answer. She tried calling Wyatt. Still straight to voicemail.by noon. She'd received 3 more calls. The bank where she worked wanted to see her in HR on Friday morning. The neighborhood association had questions about rental properties she was supposedly managing. And a Detective Morrison wanted to discuss financial irregularities involving forged loan documents. She called in sick to work and drove to her mother's apartment. Maeve met her at the door, eyes red from crying. Did you get a call from the IRS? Maeve asked without preamble. This morning. You too. An hour ago. They want to see all our business records. Lyndon, we don't have business records. We just took deposits and kept the cash. That's not illegal. It is if we didn't report it on our taxes. And it is if we were lying about owning rental properties. They sat in Maeve's small living room, both staring at their phones, waiting for them to ring with more bad news. This is Wyatt, Maeve said finally. He's doing this to us. Wyatt doesn't know about our business. Wyatt knows everything. You think he's been blind for 3 years? He's been watching, waiting, planning this. Lyndon felt something cold settle in her stomach. He couldn't have. He's not that smart. He's smart enough to disappear without a trace. Smart enough to leave you that note. Smart enough to fake his laptop. Maeve leaned forward. What did that note say again? This is war. I won't be silent. And you thought he was bluffing. Lyndon's phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Mercer? This is Channel 15 News. We're doing a story about rental scams in the Madison area, and your business name came up in our investigation. Would you like to comment? Lyndon hung up without answering. Her phone immediately rang again. Different number, same question. She turned off her phone and looked at her mother. We need a lawyer. With what money? And what are we going to tell them? That we've been running rental scams for 3 years, and now someone turned us in. It wasn't scams. It was just entrepreneurship. Tell that to the IRS, Maeve said bitterly. Tell that to the families we took money from. For the first time in her life, Linda Mercer felt genuinely afraid. 6 weeks later, Wyatt sat in the Madison County Courthouse wearing his best suit and carrying a briefcase full of documentation that would end his marriage decisively. Across the aisle, Lyndon wore a cheap blazer and kept glancing nervously at the door as if expecting rescue. Her lawyer was a public defender named Stevens who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He'd inherited the case when Lyndon's original attorney dropped her after seeing the evidence against her. All rise, the bailiff announced. The Honorable Judge Martha Reeves presiding. Judge Reeves was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. She'd been handling divorce cases for 20 years and had seen every kind of financial manipulation imaginable. This is the matter of Mercer versus Mercer, she said, settling behind the bench. I've reviewed the preliminary filings, and I have to say this is one of the more interesting cases I've seen this year. Adele, sitting as Wyatt's legal counsel, stood first. Your Honor, we're seeking dissolution of marriage with full asset separation and restitution for financial fraud committed by the defendant. Strong words, Counselor. Mr. Stevens, how does your client respond? Stevens cleared his throat. Your Honor, Mrs. Mercer contests the characterization of her actions as fraudulent. These were disagreements about family finances, nothing more. I see. Judge Reeves opened the file in front of her. Let's start with the loan documents, shall we? Mrs. Mercer, did you sign your husband's name to loan applications totaling $15,000? Lyndon stood shakily. Your Honor, I had permission to handle family finances. Did you have written permission to forge his signature? No, but thank you. Mr. Mercer, did you give your wife permission to obtain loans in your name? Wyatt stood. No, Your Honor. I was unaware of these loans until 3 weeks ago. And the rental property business, Premier Property Solutions. Mrs. Mercer, can you explain how you collected $40,000 in rental deposits for properties you didn't own? Stevens tried to object, but Judge Reeves waved him off. Your Honor, Lyndon said, her voice barely audible, that was just a small business venture. A business venture that the IRS has classified as fraud and the State Attorney General is prosecuting as theft by deception. Lyndon's face went white. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but you did hurt people. I have statements here from 6 families who lost deposits they couldn't afford to lose. I have documentation showing your husband paid over $8,000 for your sister's tuition while she wasn't even enrolled in school. Judge Reeves flipped through more papers. I also have audio recordings of phone conversations where you explicitly state that your husband owes your family money for supporting him, when in fact the bank records show he was the sole income provider for your household. Your Honor, Stevens tried again, these recordings may have been obtained illegally. They weren't, Adele said smoothly. Wisconsin is a one-party consent state. Mr. Mercer was free to record conversations he was part of. That's correct, Judge Reeves confirmed. And frankly, Mr. Stevens, these recordings paint a very clear picture of financial abuse and manipulation. She closed the file and looked directly at Lyndon. Mrs. Mercer, in 30 years on the bench, I've seen many cases of one spouse taking advantage of another financially. But the systematic, calculated nature of what you've done here is extraordinary. You didn't just steal from your husband, you made him feel guilty about money that was rightfully his. Your Honor, I love my husband. You loved his money. There's a difference. Judge Reeves picked up her gavel. I'm granting the dissolution of marriage with the following terms. All marital assets remain with Mr. Mercer, as he was the sole financial contributor. Mrs. Mercer will repay the $15,000 in fraudulent loans plus interest. She will also pay restitution of $12,000 for the falsified tuition payments and other deceptive practices. Lyndon started crying. I don't have that kind of money. Then you'll need to find it. I'm also ordering the sale of the marital home, with all proceeds going to Mr. Mercer as compensation for his losses. Stevens stood desperately. Your Honor, my client will have nowhere to live. Your client should have thought of that before committing multiple felonies. Court dismissed. The gavel fell with finality. Wyatt felt no satisfaction, no triumph. Just relief that it was over. Outside the courthouse, Lyndon approached him one last time. Wyatt, please. We can work this out. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. He looked at her without emotion. No, we can't. You spent 3 years making me feel like a failure while you stole from me. You made me apologize for working to support your family. You convinced me I owed you something when you owed me everything. I was just trying to take care of my family. By destroying me. By lying to everyone about who I really was. He shouldered his briefcase. You made your choices, Lyndon. Now live with them. He walked away without looking back. 2 days after the divorce was finalized, Wyatt's dead man switch activated. He'd set it up months earlier, using a delayed email service that would send messages automatically if he didn't log in to cancel them every week. The emails went to 47 recipients. Everyone in Lyndon's contact list, her coworkers at the bank, the PDA members from her volunteer work, and the parent from Reese's high school class. The subject line was simple: the truth about financial abuse, a man's story. The email contained screenshots of every text message Lyndon had sent him over the past 6 months, including the birthday messages demanding money and threatening to throw him out. Audio recordings of conversations where Lyndon and her family laughed about how easy it was to get money out of him. A calm, 10-minute video of Wyatt sitting in his guest house, explaining what financial abuse looked like from a man's perspective. Bank records showing that he'd paid for everything while being called irresponsible and selfish. Documentation of the rental scam and fake tuition payments. The video was the most powerful part. Wyatt spoke directly to the camera in a quiet, controlled voice. My name is Wyatt Mercer, And for 3 years, I was financially abused by my wife and her family. Most people think abuse only looks one way: physical violence, usually against women. But abuse comes in many forms, and it can happen to anyone. Financial abuse means controlling someone through money. It means making them feel guilty for spending their own earnings. It means lying to friends and family about who really pays the bills. It means taking credit for another person's success while blaming them for every problem. For 3 years, I supported a household of 4 people while being told I was selfish and irresponsible. I paid for college tuition for someone who wasn't even in school. I had my identity stolen by the person who claimed to love me. But the worst part wasn't the money. The worst part was being made to feel like I deserved it, like I owed them something, like I was lucky they tolerated me. I'm sharing this because financial abuse against men is real and it's hidden. We're taught that real men should be able to handle it, that we should be grateful for any relationship, that we shouldn't complain about supporting our families. But support isn't the same as being exploited. Love isn't the same as financial control. And being a man doesn't mean you deserve to be treated like an ATM. If this sounds familiar, if you're living this right now, know that you're not alone. And you don't have to accept it. Document everything. Get help. And remember, you deserve to be treated with respect, not used for what you can provide. The video went viral within hours. First through local Madison social media groups, then picked up by men's rights organizations, then shared on national forums about domestic abuse. By the end of the week, it had been viewed 200,000 times and featured on 3 different news programs as an example of hidden domestic abuse. Lyndon's phone rang constantly with calls from reporters wanting her response. Her mother received death threats from people who recognized her from the rental scam coverage. Reese deleted all her social media accounts after being confronted by former classmates who remembered her bragging about her stupid brother-in-law paying for everything. Scene 10. Final victory 3 months later, Wyatt stood in the small gym that Alonzo had opened on Madison's South Side. It was 6 a.m., and he was teaching a self-defense class to a group of 8 men who'd found him through the viral video. Control comes from preparation, he told the class, demonstrating a defensive stance. When someone attacks you physically, emotionally, financially, your response depends on how ready you are. The men nodded, following his movements. Half of them were going through divorces of their own. The other half were trying to escape controlling relationships before they got worse. Remember, Wyatt continued, strength isn't about fighting back harder. It's about being smart enough to see the attack coming and prepared enough to defend yourself effectively. After class, he drove to his new apartment, a clean, simple place near the university where he could walk to coffee shops and didn't have to worry about surprise bills or family emergencies that weren't really emergencies. His consulting business was growing again. Word had spread through Madison's tech community about the quiet guy who'd taken down a sophisticated financial fraud operation. Companies liked hiring someone who paid attention to details and couldn't be manipulated. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown, you ruined us. I hope you're happy. Wyatt recognized the writing style. Reese, probably using a friend's phone since he'd blocked her number months ago, that he typed back. No, you ruined yourselves. I just turned the lights on. Then he blocked this number too. Another text arrived immediately, this one from Lyndon's number. Lyndon, we need to talk. This has gone too far. Wyatt stared at the message for a moment, then deleted it without responding. He'd said everything he needed to say in court. Lyndon could spend the rest of her life trying to explain her choices to other people. He was done listening. Final scene. Closure on a cold Saturday morning in November. Wyatt drove to Forest Hill Cemetery on the outskirts of Madison. His father's grave sat under an oak tree, marked with a simple headstone. Staff Sergeant Robert Mercer, 1952 to 2018. Semper Fidelis. Wyatt knelt and placed a challenge coin on the stone. It was the same coin his father had given him when he left for the Marines. Always faithful. To your country, your brothers, and yourself. I kept the line, Dad, Wyatt said quietly. I didn't break. The wind moved through the oak tree, scattering leaves across the grave. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell was ringing, calling people to worship or warning them about the coming weather. Wyatt stood and walked back to his truck. Behind him, The challenge coin caught the morning light, a small promise kept in a world that often rewarded breaking them, that he drove home to his quiet apartment, his growing business, and his life free from people who mistook kindness for weakness. The war was over. He'd won it by refusing to become the kind of person his enemies already were. In the distance, his phone buzzed with another block number, another desperate message from someone who wanted him to return to being their victim. He didn't even look at it.